Hello and welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, welcome, and for all the other aliens that have been here for a while, thank you for coming back again. Today's video is going to be poetry based. We are going to be talking about, or I'm going to be talking about a poem and my own personal analysis of a poem by W.B.Yeats. I'm actually going to complete reading it, and I think I'll be making videos every time a poem strikes me, so curiously. And today's poem is going to be, I already read, I already read, I've already, I already made a video on the first poem of the book, which is the Song of the Happy Shepherd, and there are like one or two poems after that, and then the Song of the Sad. It's not the Song of the Sad Shepherd, it's actually the Sad Shepherd. So my thumbnail, I have to edit it. So the Sad Shepherd, I don't know if I have to read it, or I just say what I want to, talk about the poem in particular. Anyways, for those people that are not familiar with Yeats' work or haven't read the Sad Shepherd, I want to talk about this poem. The dog, oh my god, I hope my mic mutes the dog out. So anyways, the poem is based off of this lyrical, not based on this is an anthology of his works, at a certain period of his life. And these poems that we're starting off with are a collection titled Lyrical. So you will notice that most of the words he used are very rhythmical. They rhyme with each other. It's kind of like you're singing a song or reading a lullaby, sort of. And the Sad Shepherd is especially so. I've read, after the Sad Shepherd, we have the Cloak, the Boat, and the Sea. It's so very lyrical, like it says. So anyways, the Sad Shepherd reads thus: there was a man whom sorrow named his friend, and he, of his high comrade sorrow dreaming, went walking with slow steps along the gleaming and humming sands where windy surges wend. Okay, so dreaming, gleaming, and now I even see it as I'm reading it again, that this man is dreaming of his friend's sorrow. So basically, he's a sad person, or he's a sorrowful person. Anyways, and he called loudly to the stars to bend. Now we just came from the line, and humming sands where windy surges wend. The next line goes, and he called loudly to the stars to bend from their pale thrones and comfort him. But they among themselves laugh on and sing alway. And then the man whom sorrow named his friend, I think this is my favorite line, the man whom sorrow named his friend, cried out, dim sea, hear my most piteous story. The sea swept on and cried her old cry still, rolling along in dreams from hill to hill. He fled the persecution of her glory, and in a far-off gentle valley stopping, cried all his story to the dewdrops glistening. But not they heard, for they are always listening, the dewdrops, for the sound of their own dropping. So I like how very unabashed he is about, repeating sound, repeating similar sounding words, and his use of and I enjoy, because I've always felt very ashamed about my steady usage of and in most of my writings. You get, so, but like seeing it use a lot of and just gives me hope that okay, I can just keep up what I'm doing. So where was I? But not they heard, for they are always listening, the dewdrops for the sound of their own dropping. And then the man whom sorrow named his friend sought once again the shore, and found a shell, and thought, I will my heavy story tell, till my own words re-echoing shall send their sadness through a hollow pearly heart. And my own tale again for me shall sing, and my own whispering words be comforting, and lo, my ancient burden may depart. Then he sang softly near the pearly rim, but the sad dweller by the sea waves lone changed all he sang to inarticulate moan among her wildering wells, forgetting him. So from I like this. I like the way it ends. Like describing the shell as a sad dweller alone by the sea, kind of puts into perspective that this man, first of all, he's not the only person that carries the weight of sadness. And this man can move from place to place, but this shell is always by the sea, and the shell is always alone. Seashell by the seashore, seashore selling seashells by the seashore. Okay, that's him. He's not my friend. So anyways, my annotation, or my not annotation, because I wrote a whole paragraph about it, but very short paragraph though. So I'd like to read my stuff, what I wrote about the sad shepherd. There was a man whom sorrow named his friend. That's my favorite line. And then my interpretation thus goes, or my feelings about it thus goes. This poem reads interestingly because even nature, elements of nature that humans believe are bound to be there, listening for man. On a closer look, if you pay attention very closely, they are much caught up in their own existence. I mean nature now, and her elements, the sea, the stars, the dewdrops, even the dewdrops, the seashell, all of them are all caught up in their own lives. Like the sea, he even describes the sea that he even demands, he cries out though, but it's kind of like a demand that the sea should hear his piteous story. But the sea swept on and cried her old cry still. So that means the sea has always been a mourner. The sea has always, in this context, has always been a mourner and has always had her own cries, to scream out loud. And the sea rolls along in dreams from hill to hill, so much that he fled the persecution of her glory. So that line is a bit obscure to me, like how would the glory of the sea persecute him? So if anybody can break it down for me, I'd appreciate it. But moving on with what I said they are very much caught up in their own existence, in the regular humdrums of their beingness. Too busy being, you as a human realize you are not the center of this world, and that your mourning is just sounds contributing to the quality of this cosmic awareness, a quality which translates to aliveness. So at the end of the day, one thing that is very specific that Yeats brings out in all of this narration is that all of these elements he goes to meet, they're all making sounds. Yeah, the stars laugh and they don't mind him. The sea cries her old cry, and the dewdrops are listening for the sound of their dropping. So their dropping is a sound. And then the seashell, which is just a sad dweller by the seaways lone, changed, has her own, because it's a her pronoun that is here. The seashell has her own moon. She has her own wildering wells, and she forgets him immediately. You get, so all of them are all making some sort of sounds that's peculiar to their state. And the man whom sorrow named his friend, because that is his name eventually, the man whom sorrow named his friend, is just caught up in his own mourning, caught up in the need to retell his desire to be heard, caught up in the need to offload his own burden of sadness, of sorrow. And all those people that could all those elements or creatures that could actually respond to him, and refuse to respond, they gave their own, they did not consent to hear him out. Some of them ignored him. The stars laughed at him. The sea continued their own cry. The dewdrops did not even listen to him because they're so busy with their own listening. So he went to meet the seashell, because you can pick up a seashell and you can cry into a seashell. But just because you can pick up the seashell does not remove the autonomy of the seashell from itself. Do you get, like, movement of a human being does not undermines the autonomy of the elements, whether inanimate or not, around a human being. It's kind of like my major point of the whole poem, that like my major point that I'm trying to bring out from the poem is that, you know, man has always seen themselves at the center of this um universe. Can I even say galaxy, even because Earth is the only, as far as humans know, they are the only ones that people, Earth gives birth to people, you know. So like, we've not heard of any people from other planets either, you get, but that does not make them inanimate. And the Earth that we reside in, that we are brought up from, you know, we are not the center of intelligence, so to speak. We are not the center of all knowledge, so to speak. The way man goes about, you know, ascribing names and labels to nature, which I know is all for the improvement and growth of science, which I'm not against. I'm not that kind of person. I'm very, very much intellectual and for knowledge and all of that. But at some point, you know, there is this what do you call it, this arrogance, this innate arrogance that man carries themselves with. You know, man carries themselves with this arrogance as the pinnacle of what, sentience, as the pinnacle of life. Just because they are animate, they are sentient, they are intellectual, they can use their brain to think. But like, I don't like poems like this. Remind me personally that I have to give it to the world around me. I have to give it to my bed. I have to give it to my microphone. I have to give it to this tool by my side. I have to give it to the things around me. As much as they don't move the way I move, they don't have the mostly movements, hands and feet and brain that they don't have, you know, they don't look like me. That does not deprive them of their beingness. Do you get? And I think it's wonderful that Yeats also used like literal nature, like a natural element, things found in nature, creatures found in nature. And I like that he gave the seashell the most, you know, the most representative of something that is inanimate. Even dewdrops inanimate, but let's say dewdrops move, yeah. But like the seashell, you can pick it up and cry all your cry inside it, but the seashell is not bound to listen to you. The seashell is not bound to carry your body, to offload you, to relieve you of your stress. You can sit by the seashell, and both of you can, you know, sit in silence in your and commiserate. But the man is not willing. This man that's throwing him this friend is not willing to commiserate, because he probably does not see this element of nature as his equal. You know, there's already an innate sense of like there's this demand for an audience, you know, by things that he feel, you know. And obviously for him to be looking among nature, for nature to answer to him, to listen to his stories and all of that, listen to his sorrows and his burdens, and retell his story so that he can come into comfort. It means that he could not find anyone among the humans. Do you get? So he came to nature, and it's like the same thing that probably makes him be alone. It's the same thing he's still behaving with, you know, nature and all that. But all of this is just my personal interpretation, my going into the world of this story, the world of this poem, and just, you know, picking apart of it. But it's very interesting to me. It's just like very, like, all of it is just the aliveness, you know, in this cosmic cosmos that we exist in, you get. And it's a reminder personally for me to, you know, take comfort in the fact that I'm never alone. Do you know, I'm never alone. And I'm never alone in the sense that, okay, just because I'm not alone, everybody's bound to listen to me, or everybody must appeal to me, must acquiesce my demands for an audience, my demands for connection. No, the connection that is what is offered. Do you get? And if my tree, like my flowers, are not like stretching out the hand for me to hug them or whatever, then I can just sit still with my flowers. I'll sit still with the tree, like I do, like I've always done. You know, this year has been interesting for me. I've been traveling. I traveled around a bit, and I connected with nature in a way that I haven't ever really in my life. And in connection, I found out that trees were very good support systems. You know, they were very good friends. They made for good company. They kept me sane. They listened to me. They never demanded anything from me, and they were always there for me. You get? They made me feel very much less alone, and I will always treasure trees in my mind. So in that sense, like and sometimes it may not even be his fault that he doesn't have any. I mean, the man that Soro calls his friend may not be his fault that he doesn't have friends. Actually, it might just be just what his lot is in life, bearing a lot of sorrows and being by himself. But then again, you are not really alone, are you? And it's like when you realize you're not alone, you go to the sea. Why not just sit and just sit with the sea? You don't need to demand the sea to hear you out. You don't need to ask the stars to come down and listen to you and pay you mind. That's so silly. They even laughed at him. So like, I don't know, it's just part of being alive. I guess this is just an aspect of aliveness that we don't, or me, like I wouldn't have been able to break it down into or put it into such succinct expression of words, or expression with words, like Yeats did. And I'm so grateful for this poem, The Sad Shepherd. Anyways, that is my video for today, and I will see you in the next one. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. If you have opposing views, if you have contradictory interpretations of The Sad Shepherd, please let me know. If you agree with what I said, let me know. I just want to share my budding love of poetry with everyone else, and I'll see you in the next video. The next video might not be poem, it will be something interesting, something else that catches my fancy. As I said, everything is available to us on this channel. So my fellow aliens, bye. What's the sign? It's not the sign I was saying, make the sign like this sign of aliens. Bye bye.